everybody. So I thought I would do a quick cook with me just to show you my basic pasta bake recipe. Now I make quite a lot of pasta bakes, especially during the autumn and winter months. They're filling, they go a long way, there's usually leftovers for lunch and things like that. So I thought I'd just share with you what I use as my basis for pasta bake. So the things that appear in every one are some dry pasta. I'm going to use fusilli tonight, and a carton of passata and chopped garlic. So that goes in every single pasta bake that I make. And then you can just vary it up really with whatever you want. So I always put a meat in. Usually Tony does like a meal to have meat in it of some description. So rarely do I make them without meat, but you could. So today I'm going to use some of these bacon medallions. I'm just going to chop those up and add that into the pasta bake. I make it with chicken and bacon. I make it with smoked sausage. I make it with mince sometimes, so you get a kind of a pasta-y, bolognese sort of pasta bake. You could make it with chunks of salmon or fish of some kind. There really are limitless options when it comes to adding some meat into it. Gammon, I've used the gammon steaks cut up into pieces for it in the past. And then you also want some vegetables. So again, pretty much whatever you've got in the fridge. I'm using vegetables. I've got a red onion, but then this pepper is looking a bit sad and needs to be used up. So I'm going to add that in, and I've got the rest of last week's carton of mushrooms to get rid of, so I'm going to put those in as well. But you could use courgettes, you could use if you don't have any kind of vegetables lying in the bottom of your fridge, or you haven't bought any in that you could use for this, then you could just even add a handful of frozen mixed vegetables, like the little pieces of vegetables like you might put in a pie or a casserole or something like that. Just use a handful of those instead to get some vegetables through it. The passata also counts as a vegetable if you like, so that adds something. You could use a jar of pasta sauce, but I use the passata because then I season it depending on what my taste is. Now I am actually going to go very traditional today and use Italian herb seasoning, but you could use, I like the chicken and bacon one. I like that with Cajun seasoning in it. Sometimes when I use the mince, I add in chili powder and cumin to make a kind of a Mexican style, and then perhaps add a can of kidney beans into the mixture as well. You could use some Indian seasoning. Don't be kind of restricted thinking that if it's pasta it's got to be Italian-y. No, just get experimental. Whatever flavours your family like, work with pasta. So I have used curry powder in the past and made a kind of a curry pasta bake, which is actually surprisingly very tasty. Don't be restricted by what you feel are like rules in the kitchen. When I lived in the States, there was a quite common thing over there that you would never put cheese and fish together. Now in Europe we don't seem to have that same issue. We will put cheese with anything, but like a fish pie with cheese on the top, a fish in a light cheese sauce is quite a common dish here. A Parmesan crust on fish is again quite common. So just don't be bound by rules, just be creative. And the other thing you need for a delicious pasta bake is some cheese. So I'm going to grate up some of this. It's lighter cheddar cheese. I'm going to grate some of that up to sprinkle over the top before it goes in the oven. So I'll get all of this chopped up and cooking. So I'm going to cook the vegetables and the meat together. As it's bacon medallions, I'll just put it all in together. If I was doing chicken or something, or mince, I would just brown that a bit first before adding the vegetables. So I'm going to brown all of that up until it's cooked through while the pasta's cooking. Then add the seasonings and the passata and bring it all together, put it into a casserole, top it with cheese, and about 15 minutes later you've got a delicious pasta bake. So I'm heating the oven up to 200 Celsius just while everything else is coming together, and then it'll be ready to go in the oven. So I'll come back and show you where I'm at once I get everything cooking in the skillet. Okay, so I've got everything cooking away in this pan. It's the bacon, the red onion, the mushrooms and the peppers. I also added a teaspoon of the minced garlic, and I added a really good shake of the Italian mixed herbs. So this is all, I wish you could smell this because it actually smells delicious just by itself. I think anytime you're cooking bacon and onion, I think that smell is just such a comforting smell. But that's just all cooking together. I've got the pasta boiling over here. Once that's done, I'll combine these two things together and the carton of passata as well. I'll add a little bit of black pepper. I won't add any salt because I used some of the bacon I used was smoked, so it won't need any salt in it at all. We don't usually add salt into our cooking. I add it to cooking water, so there is salt in the pasta water, and like if I'm cooking potatoes I add salt, but rarely do I add very much salt to meals that I'm making. We just don't, I don't know, we don't miss it. We don't feel like things don't have flavour. I add lots of other seasonings and lots of black pepper to things, but not salt. So yeah, I'll combine all of that together. I'll put it into the casserole dish here, sprinkle, you see I've got cheese grated ready to sprinkle over the top, and then it will go into a 200-degree oven for 15 minutes. So there you can see I've got everything now combined. So once the pasta was cooked, I drained it, I added it into the skillet with the vegetables and bacon, and then I poured the passata in and just stirred it all around to combine. Tipped it into the casserole. If you've got any vegetables or meat or anything that's kind of at the bottom and not well combined, that makes it on the top of the casserole, or you can just give it another stir once it gets in the casserole dish just to make sure it's all nicely combined. And I've just started to sprinkle the cheese over the top. I've got some more cheese to put on this half, and then 200 degrees, 15 minutes in the oven, and I'll come back and show you the finished product. So there's the finished pasta bake fresh from the oven. So this really is a versatile dish to have in your toolbox. You could have it every week for a month and not have the same flavours or contents of the pasta bake each week. So it really can be varied to suit your family's preferences, tastes, the flavours that you enjoy. You can see the layers in there of the bubbling away, the vegetables, the passata, the bacon, the pasta, and the nice cheesy topping. So we're off to tuck into this. For this I am going to serve it with a bit of side salad, but you could just have it by itself. You could have it with garlic bread. Depending on how much vegetables you put in it, you might not want to add anything else on the side, but I am going to have a bit of salad with mine. So yep, a very simple pasta bake recipe that you can vary to suit your family. I hope you find this helpful.